Welcome back to Movie Moshow. Today we are going to review the action thriller film, The Last Duel. If you like our content, don't forget to like and subscribe. We post multiple times daily. Spoilers ahead. The first chapter is titled The Truth as Told by Jean de Carouges. After participating in the Caroline War, Count Pierre d'Alençon, who has been designated as Jean de Carouges' overlord by his cousin, King Charles VI, commands Jean de Carouges and his buddy, Squire Jacques Legris, to swear allegiance. Later, when de Carouges says he lacks the cash, Jacques agrees to seek for Jean's forgiveness after learning that Pierre has ordered his new vassals to pay war duties. After receiving a sizable dowry and the rights to numerous valuable estates, Jean marries Marguerite de Thibouville in order to get his finances back on track. However, Pierre has already given Jacques a plot of land. King Charles denies Jean's request for the land to be given to him. In retaliation, Pierre names Jacques fort captain of a fort that has been held by Jean's family for many years. After a military operation in Scotland, Jean receives a knighthood for valor but goes bankrupt. When he comes home from a visit to Paris, Marguerite tells him that Jacques raped her while she was home alone. Jean decides to challenge Pierre to a duel to the death, knowing that Pierre will defend Jacques, and Charles VI agrees to his request. Chapter 2, Jacques Legris version of reality. By putting the Count's finances in order with his accounting expertise, Jacques gains Pierre's trust and lands a job at the court. When Jacques first meets Marguerite, he immediately falls in love with her and believes that she feels the same way about him. Marguerite is left alone as his mother runs errands with the help of the staff when Jean is out. Declaring that his horse has thrown a shoe, Jacques instructs his servant to knock on the door. She lets the man in, but Jacques swiftly follows him and earnestly professes his love for Marguerite. They are told to leave after she declares that she is married. Instead, Jacques follows Marguerite to her bedroom and engages in forceful sex with her that he thinks was consenting. He tells her not to tell her husband before he leaves. Later, Pierre alerts Jacques of Jean's accusation that he raped Marguerite. Jean appeals his case to King Charles and asks a duel to the death despite the Count's attempts to assert his authority. Jean challenges Jacques, who accepts. The third chapter is titled Lady Marguerite de Thibouville's version of the truth. Her inability to get pregnant causes stress in Marguerite and Jean's marriage. Marguerite tells her companions that she met Jacques and that her main intention in being courteous to him was to get his goodwill in court. He commands her to keep everyone out of the castle until Jean returns from Scotland. Despite Jean's orders, Jean's mother brings the entire staff with her on an errand. When Jacques and a servant arrive, Marguerite is duped into letting them in. Jacques arrogantly declares his love for Marguerite. He then drags Marguerite into their bedroom and rapes her viciously. Marguerite tells her husband what happened when he comes home. Later, Jean's mother instructs Marguerite to retract her claims, and accept any repercussions, so that her son can escape the court's ruling. Marguerite, who is now pregnant, is adamant that she is telling the truth during Jacques' trial. Jean is allowed to have a duel to the death by Charles VI. Marguerite confronts Jean for failing to warn her that failure would result in her being burned alive. Days before the scheduled combat, Marguerite gives birth to her son. Beginning with jousting, Jean and Jacques engage in hand-to-hand combat after losing both of their horses. Despite being stabbed, Jean eventually manages to hold Jacques down. When Jacques refuses to confess and instead protests his innocence, the man kills him. Marguerite discreetly trails behind Jean as he basks in the glory of his triumph. According to a textual epilogue, Marguerite managed his land for the next 30 years of her life and lived in peace without remarrying, while Jean died fighting in the Crusades a few years later. Thank you for watching and don't forget to like and subscribe.